All right, well, let's keep it rolling though. Let's keep it rolling. Yeah, I just totally took a risk in the opening and it did not pay off. Snoop Doop, my favorite guy. We've played him once before. He has beaten me. All right, let's get a Caro-Kann here. Like the state of Washington, yeah. All right, Caro-Kann advanced variation, bishop f5, main move, c5, sideline move, h5, main move here, bishop g4, queen b6. The queen a5, and here I'll play c3 because I want this pawn to be supported. Black is going to push c5 later, and I want to be able to recapture with the pawn. Now he's hitting this weak spot, though, since I've already developed my bishop. Very common, especially in queen's pawn openings. And I think I play queen b6 here. And I think white should trade queens and try to play against my bad bishop. I think that's black's main plan here. They're going to try to take advantage of this bishop being bad. So I want to try to trade this bishop. If he brings his knight here, for example. I also want to trade light squared bishops, I think. Start with knight d2. And I think this guy is coming around here. Is he? Black gets a knight to f5 in a lot of these lines. Okay, we'll start with knight e2. Also supporting this spot. I think probably fianchetto. And like we said, we knew this break was coming. We're going to be able to recapture with a pawn here. Let's fianchetto this dude. Get castled. Rook to the c file. I think that's the plan. Am I from St. Louis? What's up, dude? Am I from St. Louis? I'm not from St. Louis. I moved to St. Louis. Give me one moment. I go to college at Washington University in St. Louis. So I was born and raised in Washington State. And then I moved to St. Louis for college. And now I moved back to Washington. I'm living with my parents and I'm streaming and studying chess for a year. I'm taking the whole year to study chess to try to get the National Master title because it's a goal that I would very much like to achieve. Okay. Let's trade off this bishop. Trade off the bishop. Did I go to Wash U in St. Louis? I think I just explained that. Do either of my parents have an NM? Neither of my parents play chess. I think they know how to play, but they don't know any strategies. Hickey says Finchito. You know what we say in St. Louis? We call it the fettuccine. You gotta fettuccine your bishop. Like we said, he's gonna play against this bad bishop. As a 250 rated player, fianchetto feels like a bad idea. Is that wrong? So one of the reasons why fianchetto is very good is because it all comes back to the concept of square control, which is really one of the fundamental concepts of chess. So certainly, guys, are we going to trade this bishop? If you've been listening to my commentary for the past 6 minutes, the answer should be extremely clear. 100%, we should trade that bishop. Because it also goes back to square control. So the reason why fianchetto is good is because your bishop is controlling a lot of squares. When your bishop is on one of these squares or one of these squares, it's on the longest diagonal on the board. So it's controlling the maximum amount of squares, which is good. It's just good. if you watch any strong chess player play chess, try to notice how they're controlling their squares. Maximizing square control is a really important concept. It's like very, if you can maximize your square control, you will be a very strong chess player. So that's why Fianchetto is good. That's also why trading this bishop is good. Why? Because look at all of our pawns. They're all on dark squares. So they're all controlling dark squares. Look at this. They were all controlling dark squares. What color squares does the dark square bishop control? It controls the dark squares. So I don't need both. I don't need my pawns controlling dark squares and my bishop controlling dark squares. So get that bishop out of here. These pawns, they can't move. They can't move off the dark squares. Neither can my bishop, but I can trade my bishop. So that's what I'll do. Color complex, what's up? I think a bishop at the center of the board controls most squares. That is true, because if it would control a lot of squares. That's one of the reasons why controlling the center is extremely important in chess. It just all goes back to square control. It's controlling the center. Your pieces are going to control the most amount of squares, the most number of squares in the center of the board. The problem is pieces are also very vulnerable in the center. So Fianchetto is a perfect balance of keeping your pieces safe, you know, in a square that they cannot be attacked easily or captured easily, and getting really great square control. Okay, so if the position doesn't open up, this might just be a draw. It might just be a draw. Like, he might sack as well. It's very possible. Yeah, we would be very happy with the draw because we're down on time and we just have a worse position. Because we have no open files. Okay, so now it's getting crazy. Now it's crazy time, guys. Certified crazy time. But I think this is good for us. Because now this is a backwards pawn. It's a weakness we can attack. This is also a backwards pawn. So I want to go here and trade rooks next. And if he comes over here, then I'll grab the open file, come around here, pick up this pawn. It should be winning. Just have to be careful about him trying to make a passed pawn here. That's my only concern. Another idea is to sack the knight here and make a passed pawn like this, but I don't think it's going to work. Who has better square control? Well, here, I don't think square control matters too much here because this is an endgame. Square control is more of like a middle game, an opening concept. It should be good for us because we use the block, we use the knight to stop these pawns, and then we bring our king over here. It might be drawn though if I do that. Okay, instead of trading rooks like this and undoubling his pawns, we could go here and then go here with our rook. I think that will be best. Should be winning. What do you guys think? think he might be zugged here soon. He might be approaching the zug. Yeah. That piece sacrifice was not worth it. He didn't want to accept the draw. He did not want to accept the fact that the position was drawn. Went for the dubious sack. GG's, 24-77. Taking him down. Get him out of here. Bishop's like open positions, right? This is a closed position. This is basically the closed, basically as closed as you can get. We've got one open file, that's the A file, and one half open file, which is the B file. Basically as closed as you can get here, because all the other pawns are locked. The problem with bishops in closed positions is they can never do anything, because there's either one of two things is happening. Either your own pawns are blocking your bishop, and we already talked about that, right? The square control is not good there, because your pawns and your bishop are controlling the same squares. That's not effective square control. That's not very good chess. So either that's happening, or what's happening to him is my pawns counter his bishop. And so his bishop, it can't do anything, because there's like a hierarchy in chess, right? Pawns, they're the best at controlling squares, and that's why pawn structure is also so important, because pawns are really, really, really good at controlling squares, because they're worth the least amount of points. They're worth the least amount of points. So if a pawn is controlling a square, no other piece can go to that square. If a queen's controlling a square, then a piece can go there if it's defended. Like a rook can go to a square that's attacked by a queen if the rook is defended by something, because the queen, it won't be able to take it. That would still lose material. That made sense? So pawns are really, really good at controlling squares, and that's why pawn structure is so important to understand if you really want to improve your chess. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. These pawns, my pawns restrict his bishop. So that's the problem with bishops in closed positions. Either your own pawns block your bishop, or your opponent's pawns completely restrict your bishop. And that's another tip. That's another tip. I don't have a game off the top of my head right now. But if your opponent has a bishop, you have to decide. Here's something about bishops. If your opponent has a bishop, you have to decide. What is more important? Square control or protecting my pawns? And the answer to that question will decide what color you want your pawns on. And the closer you are to the end game, the less important square control is. The closer you are to the middle game, the more important square control is. So if you're still deep in the middle game, put your pawns on the same color as your opponent's bishop. And then once you trade queens, once you start trading more pieces, get your pawns to the opposite color square. Once there's no threat of your king being checkmated and you can start to activate your king, that is the exact moment when you want to start shifting your pawns from restricting your opponent's bishop to getting off of your opponent's bishop's color, so that your opponent's bishop can never attack those pawns. That is a huge tip that you guys deserve to know. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed my bishop lecture. I think I probably forgot some stuff, but it was good. It was a good lecture.